Hello and welcome to another program in which I'm going to be telling you how Satan attacks your identity. I'm Pastor Frank Lewis, and I have been doing videos here to help parents to learn how to raise emotionally healthy children. One of the things you learned last week is how very important your identity is. In fact, it's not just important, it is the most important part of you. And so it's something that if you're hearing this for the first time, go back and see the last one. What is your identity? Because it's going to be very, very important for you that are raising children to realize that you're a God-given identity. Your spouse's God-given identity is what your children are going to actually be given by you. Your identity is going to be downloaded to them. And so that's why Satan comes in and attacks your identity. He attacked it when you were a child. Now you have a distorted, damaged, and an identity that is not the identity that God gave you, and you're going to just pass that on. That's what we keep doing. We keep going around and round here. And what I'm committed on doing is stopping the madness, stopping this problem that I keep seeing everywhere I go. I work with a lot of people, and I see most of the people I work with are in great pain. Why are they in great pain? Because they got raised the same way as you were raised, or as their parents were raised, and the whole thing just keeps going and Satan keeps winning. I don't like Satan to win. And so it's very important that you realize how Satan operates. You really need to realize that Satan is an angel. He's a fallen angel. That means he can't create anything. So the only thing he can do is distort, damage. He simply wants to be able to make the God-given identity not what it was when God gave it to us and when he designed us in our mother's womb. As David said, I was fearfully and wonderfully made. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Well, the problem is we all have this identity. God loves us. We were formed in love by a loving God, and so Satan wants to make sure that we don't think that God is loving. We are valuable in God's sight. Satan wants to make sure that we're not valuable. And how is he going to do that? He's going to do that by experience. And so it's very, very important that you know that the identity that you have is going to be the identity that you give to your children. And if it's damaged, and I believe in 99% of the cases it is, even if you're a Christian, one of the things I'm going to talk about is becoming a Christian is the starting point. So we're going to get into that. But it's very, very important that you realize that Satan attacks the identity of God's creation. We're all God's creation. You know why he attacks? Because he hates us. We're made in the image of God. But he can't change your identity except through experience, except through causing us to believe things about ourselves that aren't true. And I'm going to explain that fully, or at least as much as I can today, and you're going to have a much better idea about why that happens. This is why I want to delve into this today. This is why I want to go deeper into how Satan does the work that he does. But before I do, I want to show you the book that I wrote, and the book is called The Key. I'm going to explain about this key and the value of it to heal emotionally wounded people. That's why I wrote the book, because I wanted to heal me. I wasn't interested in you at that time, but I really wanted to get me healed because I knew I was a mess. I knew I had problems. I was insecure. I was fearful. I just had all kinds of problems because my dad was a rageaholic, narcissistic doctor. That's not a good combination. He was very angry at God because of what happened to him as a child. And so I ended up angry and insecure and fearful. I was just a mess. And so I wanted to find out what was wrong with me so I could end up getting healed myself. I could help my wife get healed. And then, God drafted us to start a church, and it was in the 12 years of that church that we perfected this whole revelation that God gave us about healing the brokenhearted. Ourselves at the time, and then the people in our church, and now it's become a total, complete destiny for me to help other people get healed. So you can get this book on Amazon, and if you like the book, write a nice review for it. That would be helpful. I also have a YouTube channel called Fortifying Families 4, at Fortifying Families 4. And the reason it's at Fortifying Families 4, which sounds kind of weird, is because somebody already had Fortifying Families, so we had to do it that way. So you look at those. There's lots of videos on there. I think there's 14 on parenting, and there's 22 on how you can have a great marriage. But let's delve deeper into this whole situation of what Satan does to cause you, first of all, and your husband, your spouse, to have a damaged identity, and then that you'll pass on to your children. The scripture's very clear. Satan's primary strategy is deception. We know about that because of what he did to Eve in the garden, and of course Adam went along with Eve. And Jesus said that he was he's the father of lies. He said it in John 8:44. Satan can't tell the truth. All he can do is lie, and all he can do is distort and damage and really try to pervert, because he can't create, as I said before. So it's simple. Satan's goal is simple, but it's devastating, and unfortunately it's very, very effective. And that is to destroy, corrupt, and damage, or completely steal the identity that God gives children when they're born. Satan cannot create, as I said, so he perverts, destroys, because he can't create. Jesus said that he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Think about killing, stealing, and destroying, not about your finances or anything like that, about your identity. About your identity. That's what he's come. He's come to do that. And so because he's the God of this world, in 2 Corinthians 4:9, I think it says, 9:4. Oh, well, I can't remember it. But anyway, I think it's 4:4. Set up situations and circumstances, because he's the God of this world, he can set up situations and circumstances in a child's early life, as a baby, infant, toddler, and small child, to destroy, to damage, steal, kill, steal, and destroy. God gives that destiny and that identity, but that's what Satan comes after. He wants to stop that from coming to pass. So he attacks it, and he attacks it when the child can't reason. When he actually will attack a child, a baby, in utero, that means in the womb, by causing issues with the mother and father, perhaps, yelling, screaming, all that kind of thing. But for sure, with babies, infants, toddlers, and small children. And why does he do it with them? Because they can't reason. They can't reason, and that puts them in a very vulnerable position. And so he can't destroy the calling and destiny that God has for each child. So he works to see to it that the child never believes in what God has for them to do or who God says they are. He uses the same strategy that he's used the whole time. It's deception. And he uses environment, relationships, and emotions to plant false beliefs. That's his goal and objective, is to get a little child, a baby, infant, toddler, and small child, to believe things about themselves that aren't true, to plant false beliefs. And he does it with children in the early stages of development because they have the way God wired and set it up the brain of all human beings is that what will happen is that whatever experiences that child has, especially if they're painful, will always be explained by the left side of their brain. The right side takes in experiences. That's what brain scientists tell us. And this book has a whole section on it about brain science. I believe that the missing link in the body of Christ is that people don't understand brain science. They don't understand how God designed our brains, that we have a right side and a left side. Most people know that, but they don't know what they do. And what's really interesting is that the experience comes in the right side, the left side, it makes explanations. Now, here's the problem. It wouldn't be so bad. See, before the fall, we could say that Adam and Eve's experience was their truth. What they experienced was true. It was always true. After they disobeyed, they had a new way of knowing, and what ended up happening is they knew now in a different way. Their experience could no longer be their truth. What their truth was, what they learned through their 5 physical senses. But is that true? I'm going to prove it to you. It's not. Because you know what Adam and Eve left us that we all have to deal with is the knowledge of good and evil. And I believe it's in the left side of the brain because the explanation has to default and go through the left side of the brain. And when it goes through the left side of the brain, every explanation, every interpretation, every judgment, and every assumption is always 100% wrong. Wrong. And what that means is that we believe things. A little baby ends up believing things when they don't get their diaper changed by their father and mother. I talked about that before. What they're going to believe is they're not valuable. They're just not important enough to have their diaper changed. Now, you're going to say, how did they get that thought? Satan planted it. He planted, you're not valuable. You're not important. And so that's what happens. But here's the problem. The real problem is that anything painful that happens to a baby, infant, toddler, or small child is always going to be misinterpreted, and it's going to be misinterpreted in this way. It's going to be misinterpreted in such a way as that I or you, as a baby, infant, toddler, or small child, are going to be given the explanation that you are the cause of the pain that you just got. Let me give you an example. I'm sitting in my high chair, I'm 2.5 years old, and what ends up happening is my father's feeding me peas. I don't like the consistency of peas. I spit them out. My father slaps my hand and yells at me. And here's the thought that came. The Holy Spirit showed me this. The thought that came was not that I did something bad, but that I was bad. Well, that thought, that false belief that was planted in my brain was reinforced over and over and over, hundreds and hundreds of times by my father's actions. So I had painful experiences that reinforced that I not did something bad, but that I was bad. Well, when you get it reinforced over and over again, what's going to happen is it's happened to me. This is exactly what's happened to me. I'm passing it on. It happened to you. It happens to every human being. It cannot be avoided. And that is that I didn't believe I was valuable, important, and worthy. And I actually believed I was defective. Now, about 12 years of age, I not only believed I was defective, I believed because of how my father treated me that I was actually hated myself, that I was so bad, so incredibly bad that I needed to be hated because my father was treating me like he hated me because of the way he was. I couldn't reason that. I didn't know that because now it had been reinforced over and over and over again. And so I ended up with false beliefs about my value, my importance, and my worth. And that same thing has happened to you. And you'll do the same thing with your kids that I did with my kids, and it just continues to go on and on and on, and that's not something that we want. So what happens is that reinforcement becomes so powerful because it is now, as I said last week, it becomes my identity. So that's why I was so insecure. That's why I was so afraid, is because I had no safety. My father was not safe. He'd go off in a minute. And it really caused real problems. And that's the same thing that happened to my wife. My wife was so damaged and so wounded when I met her. And remember, I told you last week that we don't choose healthy. I didn't choose healthy. I just chose what was familiar. And what was familiar was what my wife was her brokenness. And so it caused a lot of problems for us, and we didn't have a great marriage. You may not have a great marriage. Go look at the videos on marriage. They'll help you a lot. But I'm really concentrating on you getting healed so that you can raise more healthy children. And so I made decisions. See, if I didn't believe I was valuable, important, and worthy, and I hated myself, well, what was the end game that Satan was after? He wanted me to kill myself. And lots of young people are doing that today. Way too many. Because Satan has proved to them that they have, and they give up. They have no hope. Why do they have no hope? Because they believe things about themselves that aren't true. And I'll tell you, that's a horrible place to live. I couldn't cut myself. I was too afraid. I wouldn't take a gun and shoot myself because that was painful. I hated pain. And so I wouldn't do all those things. But I made bad decisions. I made bad decisions about a lot of different things. And I cost myself a lot of problems. I was married early on. I was married after college. And what ended up happening is she divorced me. I got 10 years in the wilderness and trying to find love in all the wrong places, and that didn't work very well. I was drinking too much and all that kind of stuff. And what ended up happening is I ended up getting married again, and that marriage didn't work out well. And the reason is because I was a mess, my wife was a mess, and it was not going to work out well. And so I ended up going to painkillers. My wife was painkillers. You know what her painkiller was? She worked too hard. She fixed everybody else but took care of everybody else but herself. So she never faced into what she believed about herself that wasn't true. So, you know what? This happened when we were Christians. I was born again and filled with the Holy Spirit. My wife was too, and we still had beliefs about ourselves that weren't true. That's the same thing that's happening with you. And you know what? Just becoming a Christian, like I said in the last video, is the start of you getting emotionally healed. It's the beginning place. You accept Jesus Christ as Lord, but it takes years of reading the Bible and doing all these things that you are told to do to be able to trust Jesus enough, first of all, to make him Lord, then to make him really the Lord of your life. But most people can't trust God the Father because they put the face of their father and mother on God. And so that's one of the big issues in our Christian walk, is we have a problem trusting God. Why do we have a problem trusting God? Because we actually got downloaded and got pain from mothers and fathers We were abused. Things happened that shouldn't have happened. And so one of Satan's plan is not only to affect your identity, but he also wants to affect your belief and trust in God. See, if you can't trust God, who holds the key? This key that God showed me how to be able to, and my wife, how to be able to heal broken-hearted people and emotionally wounded people. That key is a key that God has. Jesus said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me in Luke 4:18 to heal the brokenhearted, to set the captives free. Well, I'm telling you right now, if you can't trust God, you can't get free. Just going to be the way it is. I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's the truth. And so I'd like you to know the truth because the truth will set you free. But the reality to the whole thing comes down to is how good Satan is. He's very good. In fact, he's so good that if you can't trust God, who are you going to trust? You're going to trust yourself. If you need to be in control so you don't get hurt and wounded like I needed to be in control. I was a control freak. I'm going to tell you that right now. I couldn't trust my father. I couldn't trust my mother because she didn't protect me. You probably couldn't trust your parents. And so who are you going to trust? You're going to trust yourself. Well, we can't now. This life is too difficult. We can't get through life on our own. It's impossible. So what we do is we try to control everything. That's why I was control freak. Why? I didn't want to be hurt again. And so I needed predictability and I needed certainty. So if I'm afraid of losing control and you're afraid of losing control, what's going to happen? Satan's going to take advantage of us. Why? And he did with me, and he's doing that with you. Why? Because we're afraid. Fear attracts Satan like faith attracts God. I wrote about that in my book in chapter 3. That's another reason you might want to get the book. But the reality comes down to, and the truth is, I can't control anybody. It's an illusion. I can barely control myself. One of the first fruits of the Spirit, I believe you get to love by getting self-control. So what happens is that Satan wants to make sure that if I can't trust God, I can't fulfill my destiny. I can't have an identity that's godly. It's not going to work out. And so what's going to happen through this whole thing is that Satan is going to actually put me, and he did, and he's done the same thing with you. He put me in an emotional prison. He put me in an emotional prison. And he kept beating on me for years and years and years. And I couldn't understand, and you may not understand. You're a Christian, but you may not understand why the Christian life is so hard. I'm going to tell you why it's so hard. Is because he's put you in an emotional prison. He put me in an emotional prison, and I did not know how to get out until God showed me that the key was brain science. Understanding how he actually designed my brain, and your brain, by the way, we're all in the same boat here, that I could begin to understand why I was so angry, why I was feeling so, why I hated myself, why I was not valuable, important, and worthy. You're going to need to do the same thing. How are you going to do that? Well, you're not going to do it the way that you probably think you're going to do it. You're going to have to be able to learn how Satan's done what he's done, and then I am going to help you because I want you to raise a more emotionally healthy children. I'm going to help you learn what I learned. I'm going to help you learn about the key that unlocks the prison door, unlocks your prison door, and sets you free. It will actually heal your broken heart, and I'm going to show you how to do that in the weeks ahead. But suffice it to say, Satan is very good at what he does. In fact, he's so good at it, it's just caused pain. Everywhere I turn, people are in pain. And I don't want to see you be in pain. I don't want to see your children be in pain. I don't want to see this thing continue. You know, we've got to understand that if we don't know what Satan's done to us, then we're going to perish for lack of knowledge. We're going to go round and round the circle trying to find the answer, and we won't know what it is because we can't trust God. And that Satan's been done very well with this. And so we need to realize that Satan reinforces all these traumatic events in our life. He reinforces the lies that we believe, the false beliefs that we have. And so he ends up being in control. This is how he gets control over us, is by having us locked up in that prison. But I'm going to help you get out. And parents, you've got to be more emotionally healed so your children don't go into an emotional prison. You don't want your children in an emotional prison. You're the one who decided to have children. You are responsible for raising your children. So if you're responsible for raising your children, I'm exhorting you, I'm telling you, this is why I'm doing this work. This is why I'm spending all this time. This is why I'm writing this book called Parents Playbook, so that you will know how to raise more emotionally healthy children. It's vital. We've got to stop, as I said in the last video, the madness. We can't continue to have you and raising children. I raised my children like I was raised. You're going to raise your children like you were raised. And the whole cycle will just continue, and your children will be just as messed up as you are. And I'm sorry to say that. It may sound harsh. I don't mean to be harsh. I just mean to be truthful. But I want to speak that truth in love. And so I hope, and my prayer really comes down to this. I hope and pray that you will take what you've learned about what Satan has done to you and realize it wasn't your father or mother. It wasn't all the pain and suffering that you went through other people. It was the devil. And the devil hates you, and he's come to kill, steal, and destroy. And you have to get emotionally healed. You have to get emotionally healed and well, and your brokenness needs to be healed so you can raise children that don't have to suffer like you and I. My wife is in heaven because she could not trust God. And so I don't want you to not fulfill your call of raising emotionally healthy children because you didn't listen. So please listen and get the job done.